this money, retired from the corporate world,
Yeah.
created a chair for relaxation and meditation. And it was like a lounge chair. And so you like lay in this lounge chair and it's sound and vibration. They have them now commercially available. Not his, but another version. And so you lay in it and you put on headphones and it like gets rid of all the sensations of your body because it's giving you some vibration, it's giving you sound, and you can get out of your body more meditating. But what they found is it was like, we're not on camera yet. So he found it was curing cancer, like stage 4 cancer. So people that were going to die, they're like, can I just use your bed to see what it's like so I can relax? It was for stress. And the guy did it for 6 weeks and went back to his doctor and the cancer was gone and he was stage 4. So they're like, what in this bed is doing this, whatever it was, of reversing the disease? So they found that there was a giant speaker right under the person's
We're live, by the way.
back. Okay. And it was like this magnet moving up and down was creating a magnetic field that put their body into parasympathetic, like deep parasympathetic. And you could tune that magnet to put people into deep sleep. There's like a frequency of deep sleep. So instead of this giant lounge chair, they made a compact version. This is the 50th version of what they've made. And so what this does is it's connected to this wearable. So it's reading my heart rate right now, and it's giving a frequency to put you into a relaxation or a parasympathetic state. Not me, but you guys will get it. Yep. So don't fall asleep. But the other thing other than relaxing is like stress is the #1 cause of doctor visits. So 95% of all doctor's visits is due to stress. So they might be there for pain or cancer or heart disease, but all those are stress related at the core. So this is like during work, during the day when you're stressed, and Nina's used this. You can use it to de-stress or to meditate, but the big benefit is this wearable tracks your sleep. So we're talking about sleep tonight, which is why I've got this. We'll talk about this later, but essentially there's a lot of wearables like the Fitbit and Aura and Whoop that track your sleep.
Yeah.
This,
Which I have, yeah.
What
So
do you
the-
have,
okay.
the Fitbit?
Fitbit,
Okay.
yeah.
so what,
Cheapest to buy.
yeah, and they're all fine.
Yeah.
None of them can do what this does because this guy, he not only did he invent Breathe Right, he invented the sleep lab studies that all the hospitals and schools use. He wrote the software for all that.
That's crazy.
So he created his own wearable, and it's the only wearable that has all these patents on it and can actually track your HRV, heart rate variability, which is how you track deep sleep and REM sleep. It's the only wearable that does it properly. None of the others on the market anywhere in the world can do it except the one he's got. And so not only is it tracking your sleep, but if this is under your bed, it will put you into deep sleep when your body requires it, or REM sleep when you need REM sleep. So a lot of people, as we age, we lose deep sleep. And what we're going to talk about today, we might as well talk about it now. And then we'll do intros, but there's 2 phases of sleep. Well, really, there's like infinite, but most people look at 2 stages, REM and deep. So deep sleep is where you rejuvenate your body. And it usually only occurs between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. So if you're going to bed at midnight, you might not be getting any deep sleep. So that's where like night owls are like, oh, I wake up after 8 hours, I still feel groggy, but I have all this energy at night. If you're not getting deep sleep, which is usually 9 to 11, you don't rejuvenate. It's where your body does like a whole refresh and rejuvenation protocol. And then early in the morning from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. is where you do REM sleep, or rapid eye movement, or dream sleep. And not a lot is known about REM or dream sleep, except that that's where we consolidate our memories. So if you're going to bed, like working 3rd shift and not going to bed and getting enough REM sleep, you have short-term memory loss or long-term memory loss because you're not consolidating that. And it's also where we refresh our psychological health. So all of our psychological and mental health occurs during that REM sleep.
So I think they've studied like dementia and Alzheimer's, and that's what they're looking at for the deep sleep.
So how much time do you need?
That's a really good question. So they typically look like babies have about 90% of their time sleeping is deep sleep. They're like constantly growing and rejuvenating. And that should make sense. If you look at a 25-year-old, 21 to 25 years old, that's where they try to say is your ideal deep sleep for an adult. And typically they're getting an hour and a half to 2 hours of deep sleep a night. When you get to about age 50 and beyond, you might be getting 20 minutes of deep sleep, and when you get to about 60 to 70, you get almost no deep sleep at all. Now you can measure that with these devices or the Fitbit or the Aura to see if you are getting deep sleep. So like my mom gets an hour and a half to 2 hours of deep sleep and she's 73. Like, she's like, do I need this? And I said, no, you wouldn't need anything to help you with deep sleep because you're getting the deep sleep of a 20-year-old. So she wouldn't need any, she's doing great. And you look at people that have really good longevity, they're probably getting really high deep sleep scores so they can rejuvenate their body. It's the only time you can rejuvenate your body. Your brain shrinks by 40% when you sleep to allow the glymphatic system to pump cerebral spinal fluid in, and it pumps in melatonin specifically, which we'll talk about in our talk. And the melatonin kind of defrags the brain. It gets rid of all the plaques and the things that build up in the brain that are toxins. It washes all that out, but only when you're getting the deep sleep phase. So if you're not getting the deep sleep phase, that's why they say dementia and Alzheimer's can be related to
How
that.
do you know without any?
The only way to know is to do a sleep study or to track your sleep with a wearable. So like an Oura Ring or a Fitbit are $200 or less for tracking your sleep. How's it going?
Hey, welcome.
Come on and take a seat. We can move seats too if you want to sit next to each other. We can pull some chairs over there. It's very informal, so whatever you want to do.
Sarah, right? Okay.
Yeah, $80 for a Fitbit.
So
Oh,
80
that's
bucks,
okay.
or you can run a sleep study. So in the sleep studies, they use heart rate variability. So your heart rate doesn't just beat like a metronome. It beats like fast, then slow, then fast, and you want that variability. When your heart starts beating the same way all the time, like a drum or a metronome, you're gonna come down with some sort of disease, always. That's what the medical literature says every single time. They do not want steady state heart rate. You want variability in your heart rate. So you measure heart rate variability for overall health, but also to tell if you're in deep sleep or REM sleep. And it measures it with light. So the Fitbit, your Apple Watches, the Oura Rings, they're not as bright as this because this specific technology is the most high intense light you can use to measure a frequency-based heart rate variability, which is the most accurate. Any other device on the market, they can't get enough power to measure a frequency-based HRV, so they use time. It's kind of complicated, but essentially they're not that accurate. So you either have to, if you want really accurate numbers on deep sleep, you have to go to a hospital or a university and get a sleep study, or get one of these devices, which, you know,
And the difference between the two you just explained,
that one uses a time-based HRV, which is not that accurate.
right? And this one's a frequency.
So are they interchangeable? Like if I had one, he could use it, we could use it.
You could. No, you
You
could.
can?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you had to sync it.
So what happens is you'll have your own software app. So on your phone, you have an app, if you're talking about this technology.
Oh, that's what I was wondering.
I'm not trying to sell anyone this
Is
technology.
are you saying this for the Fitbit and the Soltech, or is it?
I'm just saying that I don't know those other devices,
Okay.
but the Aura works the same.
Cross with it, because it's,
Like the Aura is just a ring. This is not my Aura ring because I don't wear mine anymore, but anyone can wear it. But it's the app that stores the data for you. This personalizes to you and your sleep. So this is generic, that is generic, but the app on your phone tells it what your sleep looks like and how to give you the best sleep for you. So could you both share it? Yes, but you wouldn't both be able to use it the same night if you're sharing one. But you could totally share one and then check. Like we could let you borrow one and you could see what your deep sleep is over a week if somebody's willing to part with their sleep device. So maybe we could probably do that and you could kind of tell where you're at. So deep sleep, super important. You have to get it for brain health and to rejuvenate the body. And then REM sleep, really important for memory consolidation and then psychological refreshment. So people who aren't sleeping, you know, you're going to be more stressed. You're going to be like, your mind is not as clear. Although I find like on day one of not enough sleep, I feel really good, but it's day two where I'm kind of a mess. So let's do intros.
Well, that's the dream, and we did ask Dan, the Soltech guy, about dreams. So that'll be. Do you have to go soon, or are you here? 20. Okay. Maybe catch you up later. Yeah.
We'll do intros. So I'm Thaddeus Owen, and we've been giving these talks since almost 2018, but not consistently. So we've been all over the country giving lectures and talks, and we're trying to do at least once a month, a free master class or some sort of class here on sleep, light, cold, nutrition, fitness, whatever it is. And Travis, Dr. Travis Johnson, this is his space, so he graciously allows us to use this to hold these classes. So thank you, Travis. And then Heidi.
I'm a health and wellness coach. I'm actually a frequency coach. And I've been working with clients lately and just having some really good results of people feeling better, feeling more higher frequency, and enjoying their life, actually. So that's kind of what I'm here for. And I'm here to like assist Thaddeus with some of the lectures. Sometimes he gets really like elevated in his talking. So I'm always like, wait, what does that mean? How, like, tell us the foundation of what you're talking about. So I'll be reeling him in every now and then.
So we had a company called PrimalHacker where we talked about biohacking, but more ancestral and nature-based biohacks. And now we're starting a brand new podcast called Corporate Escape Artists for people that hate their corporate jobs and want to leave. And kind of our bent on that is how to escape corporate without leaving your job or without quitting your job. And we're going to kind of go through a whole podcast and a training course on that. So that podcast launches next month. But today we're talking about sleep. And if anyone has not read this book, it's from 1999. It's T.S. Wiley. If you want to read the best book on sleep and light. So if anyone here knows like Dave Asprey and Bulletproof and Ben Greenfield and Luke Story and all the big biohacking names, or Dr. Jack Kruse, so I've trained with all of those guys. They all got their information from here, and nobody, until I think in June of this year, last year, I saw Dr. Kruse admit that he's used this book. This book was talking about light and sleep before anyone else in the entire US. And it is really easy to read, and it's actually kind of a fun read. So I'm just gonna read you 2 quotes from the book before we get started, because I thought I literally have like every page in this book like highlighted and underlined because it's so good. So the woman who wrote it is a medical anthropologist. And so she did a lot of research on light and sleep and then wrote this book, and it's really good. So first of all, she says, not enough sleep makes you fat, hungry, impotent, hypertensive, and cancerous with a bad heart. I was like, oh, that's a good quote. I should use that. So then she's looking at the research studies, which I'm going to show you some of these, because some people are like, well, how do you know this stuff is real? How come no one's ever heard about it? And she addresses why no one's ever heard about it in 1999 when we knew all this stuff. And it's still only in this little niche of like sleep doctors and the biohacking space. So she says, we could have called this book Lose Weight While You Sleep, but it seemed too cheap and easy. We almost called it Kept in the Dark after we found exactly where all the studies proving the premise of this book were conducted in Washington, D.C., no less than at the National Institute of Health. And they confirm that it's a scientific given that light and dark cycles turn hormone production on and off. So people are talking about, hey, Jeff, what's going on? Good to see you. You're going to be right in the front row. You're going to get some benefit from this. Right. Okay, so we know a lot of people that have like, I have poor thyroid function, or my thyroid is underactive or overactive or whatever it is. And then people that have all sorts of other hormone problems, and sleep turns those hormones on and off, as does light, or all sorts of light. It activates your immune system, and at times neurotransmitter release daily and seasonally. This is what I think almost no one is talking about, except in my book that I wrote on seasonal effectiveness of how light actually works. So I'm just going to read this short quote and then we'll go on. So, while fire with its illumination extended our day enough to affect intellect and reproduction, limitless electricity may put us under the ground, unless the government puts us underground first. Okay, why would that be? If the NIH, National Institute of Health, has run most of the studies that provide evidence that depression, obesity, heart disease, and cancer can be prevented by sleeping more and turning out the lights at night, why have they kept us in the dark? Why do they continue to insist high carbohydrate diets and exercise will cure us? Are they really trying to kill us? The truth is always stranger than fiction. Scientists with the MacArthur Mind-Body Foundation, the University of Chicago, NASA, and the National Institute of Health and the National Institute of Mental Health in Washington, D.C. have been studying this for the last 10 years. Remember, this is 1999. Now it's the last 30 years. So they came to the same conclusion that we have researched in this book. As you read this, they too are proving that we are seasonal eaters. So again, that's what my book is about, is how to eat seasonally, not just locally. We're seasonal eaters and breeders. If you notice, there's no other mammals that have babies in the middle of winter when there's not water and food available except us, because they base it on the light. And they also change their coats, they gain fat, all based on light cycles through the eye that set their hormones, which is the same thing happening to us, except we're under artificial lights that never change. Okay, so we have a feast-famine metabolism, and we develop diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and severe depression on anything less than 9.5 hours of sleep at night for at least 7 months of the year. So I really love the premise of like, you don't have to sleep 8 hours a day. In the summer, you might need 5 hours of sleep, and in the winter, you might need 10. That's where a lot of the sleep people get this wrong, and that's why some people say, I sleep 6 hours and I'm fine, or I sleep 12 hours. First of all, if you're sleeping 12 hours, you probably have some detoxification things that you need to take care of, because your body is trying to detoxify itself and rejuvenate. But this book's whole premise is that you sleep less in the summer and more in the winter. And so I don't hear anyone still to this day talking about that. Every sleep doctor I've heard still says 8 hours of sleep at night, but some people can get away with 7, some people need 9. But no one still is saying what this book has proven. And literally, the bibliography starts here in the book. So this is all studies that went into this. So I thought this was the best quote that I wanted to read. When we asked, remember, 1999, so I don't know who the head of NIH is today. When we asked Dr. Thomas Weir, the head of the department studying circadian rhythmicity, and remember in 2017, so not too long ago, the Nobel Prize in Medicine was given for circadian rhythm and its massive impact on our health. So it's good enough to give a Nobel Prize, but in 99, they had been studying this and they knew all these things that are only coming out today. So they asked the head of the NIH in Washington whether he felt the public has a right to know that on less sleep, i.e. in the dark, they will, if they don't get enough sleep, they will never be able to stop eating sugar. So sleep sets what you crave to eat. So in the winter, we shouldn't be craving sugar because there's no sugar growing outside our window. And the light from the sun tells you that. And it tells our body that. And if we're getting enough sleep and seeing the actual sunlight, we won't crave sugar in the winter. So it says, if you don't get 9.5 hours of sleep in the winter, you'll never be able to stop eating sugar, stop smoking, or stop drinking alcohol. Most certainly develop one of the following conditions: diabetes, heart disease, cancer, infertility, mental illness, and or premature aging. So they're asking the head of the NIH whether the public has a right to know this. And he says, quote, well, yes, they do have a right to know. They should be told, but it won't change anything. Nobody will ever turn out the lights. So government has known this forever. I did a TED Talk on this in 2017. There are thousands of peer-reviewed published studies. Obviously, there's like 100 pages of them in here, starting in the 70s. So we have known this for a really long time. And yet, mostly the public still doesn't know like how to get good sleep. And it's all in here since the 90s, and it's what we do a lot of teaching about. I want to see if there is one more quote. Okay, if you sleep at night for the number of hours it would normally be dark outside, less in the summer, more in the winter, naturally. You will only crave sugar in the summer when the hours of light are long, and it's the perennial adaptation or chronic constant intent to hibernate that causes overconsumption of carbs and obesity, and its attendant high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and inevitable heart failure. The book's premise is we would all get diabetes in the summer because we'd be consuming massive amounts of sugar to increase body fat, because we'd be going into a winter with not much food. So body fat, when it's burned, if you're burning your own body fat because you're fasting or you're only eating protein and fat, you're burning body fat, and body fat, when it burns, creates metabolic water in the body. So actually, when you're burning your own body fat, you need to drink a lot less water. So most animals are getting diabetes. You see like the squirrels and the bears, they gain all this fat to hibernate or have less food. So all winter long, they're feasting off their own body fat, which also creates water, so they don't have a need to go out and get water when the water's frozen. You wonder how do the squirrels get water in the winter, or bears when they're hibernating are not drinking?
They're keto.
They're ketogenic. They're ketogenic, and when you're ketogenic or burning fat for fuel, you're gaining way more metabolic water than if you're burning sugar. So there are medical doctors, Dr. Laszlo Boros, he drinks 1 cup of coffee a day for the last 30 years, and that's the only liquids he has in his entire day ever. But he's ketogenic all the time. I don't recommend that. But he's proven that it works, and he's works for the University of California, so it can work. So I thought, if you haven't read this book, like the whole book is full of stuff like that, and it's really good.
So that guy's in a bunch of sunlight too.
Boros? Yeah. Okay. So
Oh, we're not gonna do the studies,
we're going to start out with what helps you get good sleep. Do I still have stuff on my face?
Yeah.
Okay. Castor oil. It's good. Yeah, castor oil. We're learning all about castor oil. So whenever we learn stuff, we try it out before we tell anyone what we're doing and see if it works. So, okay. So go ahead.
Wait, what?
We wanted to ask everyone here
That's not my thing. That was yours.
how. Okay, so we're gonna go through like all the best ways to get your best sleep ever and why. So hopefully you know why now. Like heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and cancer. Those are the top 4 things that artificial light at night is associated with, and lack of sleep is associated with. And that's why working a night shift job is a human carcinogen. If you look up the World Health Organization's International Agency for the Research on Cancer, it's classified in the same grouping as asbestos, benzene, and lead. So it's definitely not helpful to get artificial light exposure after sunset, and yet we all do. So what do we do about it, and how is it harming us? We're going to go through some of that, but we wanted to hear from everyone here, like, where are you all on sleep? Like, what are the best ways to get a really good sleep at night? Just throw out ideas. Travis.
I've noticed doing sauna before, or like heating my body up before sleep, allows me to fall asleep way quicker than if I was like not to do sauna.
Nice.
That's something I've noticed in the last 3 months.
Are you doing cold after it?
No.
And the
Oh,
urban
really?
monk would tell you, you're cooking your body before bed. That's the dumbest thing ever. You won't be able to sleep, but
then
you do.
But then you sleep in a cold environment.
I try.
Okay.
But like I've noticed like
Huh.
am somebody who's really warm when I sleep, and so like I'm thinking about actually like getting one of those chill pads
Yeah.
because like when Sarah, she's cold and I'm super hot.
Yeah.
And so like I either need to have the window open or a fan on me, otherwise I'll just sweat,
Yeah.
which is probably from the sauna maybe too because I'm already heated. But yeah, the chili pad thing sounds really good.
Definitely a good idea. Michael and Hannah.
Expending like a lot of energy, so like unless it's like an off day or whatever, like doing sprints or working out throughout the day helps me fall asleep a lot faster too.
So exercise. Yep, definitely. Hannah.
I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and so my sleep has been pretty sparse for a while now. And one of the things there's a lot of stuff I do that I learned from you guys, and that's all good, and I think it's all pieces to the puzzle. But one thing that I just realized super recently is that my kids need to have like a really good cry before bed to sleep good. The main thing I'm noticing with that is it's like they have all this pent up stuff and it's just got to come out, and like they literally almost have to rage and I just have to hold space for it. And I notice when I have the capacity to do that, they sleep so much better because otherwise they're very restless.
Yeah.
Sleepers.
I think there's some
And I
adults that should do
co-sleep.
that too before bed.
I think it's
Cry.
Get all of it out.
yeah,
Get it all out.
have some
Yeah.
hold space for yourself or have someone hold space for you. I think that's like a big piece to the puzzle that I've been overlooking.
Nice.
Interesting.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe teenagers. You guys are in like opposite spectrums. Julie's
the
like,
same, but,
I know, like teenagers,
go
and
there.
she's like
they say
infants.
that they go back to that.
That's
Not being
interesting.
able to go to sleep like a young kid would too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the teenagers, supposedly, their circadian rhythm tends to shift a little
Yeah.
bit so that they go to bed later and they wake up later. And then that shifts back
Yeah,
at some
I can
point.
see that happening
Yeah.
with one as they're now getting older and out of the,
He's moving back.
Well,
Or is-
yeah, it used to be a later of 2, 3, now it's more like 12, 1. I mean, it's not the best or ideal,
It's
but.
better.
But he does, I bought my whole family those glasses. So I said, if you can't shut off stuff, at least put the glasses
Yeah,
on.
definitely.
Because it's better than that. And then I've changed all my lights to like the amber. I don't have the red lights. I have them in rooms, but like the kids, I don't know why they said they don't like them.
Yeah, it's different. It's different, but so you can see the lights in this space
Yeah.
have film. So there's like this film you can buy.
Yeah.
And this is pretty much, I mean, this is true dark film and it's made specifically to cover lights, but honestly, it's just the 3M headlight film or tail light film that they use to cover a broken tail light. But that's what's positioned. So these are fluorescent lights, and Travis is, obviously doesn't own this space, so he can't just
Yeah.
swap out the ballasts. But these lights, they both flicker. They have mercury in them, and they have we're going to show you in a minute, the light that emits from these. So we have some spectrometer readings of like what light comes out of here. And when you're under these lights all day long, number one, it's not natural. Number two, it jacks your cortisol. They flicker without your eye noticing, but your brain notices. And some people get migraines working under fluorescent lights. So putting the films on help with all of those things, except for the mercury part, because usually fluorescents are filled with mercury. And as they light, they resonate the mercury. So the mercury is now vibrating. When anything vibrates, it gives off a resonant frequency. And so then you resonate with the mercury in your fillings and the rest of your body, and it's not ideal. So fluorescent lighting in general is not the greatest. These tubes are way better than the fluorescents you would use at home. Those are the worst. So if you have compact fluorescents at home, I would recommend getting anything other than those. They're just awful lights that should be banned. Okay, so we got some ideas on sleep. So we're going to address all of those and more.
Should we go through the sleep hygiene now?
Okay, yeah. So really the number one thing that everyone needs to do to sleep better is literally just called sleep hygiene. And it starts when you wake up in the morning, unfortunately. So everyone's like, well, why would I want to be practicing falling asleep when I wake up in the morning? We'll go through that. And it ends when you close your eyes.
Yep, that's the first one. So from the moment you wake up, you are preparing for bed. And so that is going to tell us why we wake up, waking up 7 days a week at the same time. So you're waking up and then 14 hours later is when the melatonin is like kicking in. So they say being consistent with your bedtime, waking up at the same time, and then going to bed at the same time. So your body, like it's a clock. So it just keeps moving, in that 14-hour sleep-wake cycle. So that just will explain why that is.
So number one, melatonin. If you don't know what that is, it's a hormone. It's called the hormone of darkness because it is built in your body, programmed by sunlight. It's built from an amino acid from the protein we eat. So we eat some protein, it breaks it down to amino acid. It turns that amino acid, tryptophan, into serotonin. So a lot of people have heard about like serotonin reuptake inhibitors. You want serotonin, it comes from tryptophan. The sunlight programs the food you're eating to become those hormones later in the day. So again, when we wake up and we're only under these lights, we're programming our hormones with an artificial light that's giving our body the wrong information. All light is just information. So first of all, we're programming the amino acids to become serotonin, which is like a feel-good chemical. Serotonin then starts to build up and it gets stored in the pineal, in the gut, and in other tissues of the body. So after the sun sets, when your eyes experience darkness, all that melatonin that's being converted from serotonin releases. And that's what cleans your brain. It's the body's master anti-cancer hormone. It sets what you're hungry for the next day, and it determines whether you're gaining fat or losing fat. Because if the sun is looking like it's fall, it's signaling to your body to store a bunch of fat if you're eating carbohydrates. And if it looks like it's winter, it's telling your body to burn fat. But again, only if you're outside seeing natural sunlight and not under artificial lights all day long. So the melatonin is super important. And what happens is from the second we open our eyes and see light, melatonin is shut off. So blue frequency of light, all these lights from every one of our devices, I guess my phone's over there, I'm on the tripod, all of our devices, all these overhead lights have high spikes of blue light. And blue light shuts off melatonin. It stops it from being released and it increases cortisol. because you want to be awake and alert during the day. And during the day, when the sun rises, we see blue light, blue sky. And at night, for all of human history, there's never been any blue light. The stars, the moon, and firelight have almost zero blue light. So if we're seeing blue light after sunset, any of these devices, your overhead lights, your bathroom light, it turns off your melatonin for up to 4 hours. And if you only sleep for 8 hours, you're losing half the night's rejuvenation hormone. So we can pass this around, but essentially, like, this is what daylight looks like. And you can see there's a bunch of blue, there's a bunch of red, and this dark one is infrared. I'm going to pass it
I
around.
know, so I need to turn that way so everybody can see.
So this infrared and red is very different from our indoor lighting. So here's what we're sitting under right now. If it was a warm fluorescent, thanks to these lights, it's a little shifted even more with the filters on it. Most LEDs from our phones, our televisions, our tablets, your overhead lights, your refrigerator light, every light we use today is basically an LED. And thank you, Philips, for telling everyone you invented the LED and charging everyone money every time you sell an LED now. So I don't know if you guys saw that, but Philips claims they invented the LED technology, and anyone who sells an LED light anywhere in the world owes Philips money now. So that was awesome. That just started occurring. I know my company just got sued to start giving them money.
The company you work for.
Yeah.
Not our company.
Well, we sell
Can I
lights
ask a
too.
question
Oh,
on
yeah.
LED? If you use red LED,
Yeah.
is it different?
That's what I'm going to show you here.
Okay.
Yep.
That's why
Yeah,
I'm
that's what
kind
I
of
was wondering
confused
too.
with.
This is just like a regular
So
LED.
most LEDs have a giant spike of blue. So remember, after sunset, if you see this blue, you would have never seen this through all of human history. We have receptors in our eye called melanopsin that read blue light. And when they read the blue light at night, it shuts off melatonin and increases cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Almost all lights have this giant spike of blue, almost zero red, and absolutely no infrared. Infrared is the antidote to blue. If there's no infrared, we're spiking blue in the eye, which creates macular degeneration with no antidote to it. So incandescent bulbs, they look a lot more like this is sunset, this is daytime. Sunset, we're getting almost no blue at sunset, lots of infrared and red, and that's what an incandescent mimics. So incandescents are better, but they still reduce melatonin by 40% after sunset. And then obviously these fluorescents are crap because they've got a super weird frequency to them.
And incandescents are illegal to buy now?
Incandescents are illegal to be manufactured and sold in the US. There's places to get them, but they have pretty much only made LEDs available now in the US. And of course, Philips claims they invented them and own that technology. So everyone in the world that buys these now is paying a fee to Philips, which is crazy.
What's on the back side of that?
Why is the other light, why can't we buy that in the US? Can you buy it in other countries or?
The
Yes.
incandescent?
I thought I could still see them on Amazon.
Yeah, they're coming from China. So you can still get them shipped. In California, you can't even ship them.
Oh,
But we can still get them shipped if you buy them from Amazon for a short time. Amazon's cracking down on all that.
sure.
Or AliExpress. You can go to AliExpress and buy them as well. So that's where I've got like a whole bunch of these. These are incandescents, no coating. You don't want the white coatings on your incandescents. And it's nice sometimes to get an amber coating on them. This just is a clear coating. And then, this is your typical LED. And I was going to swap these out. You can kind of see this is a red coated incandescent. You can get a red LED as well.
Is that the party bulb?
It is a party bulb. And then this is can you throw this one in here? Yeah. So this is what we travel with. And this is red and infrared, 660 nanometer. So it just replaces your bulbs, but it's pure red. So these bulbs, like some people, they don't want to use red light at night because it looks kind of weird, right? I don't mind it. It's different. It takes getting used to. It will not destroy your melatonin. All these others will, except for that red one here. But there's something else you can do without changing your lighting, which we'll go through. And most people already know what that is.
That one that you have plugged in.
So you
there?
can pass that
Corn
around.
cob.
This is Gemba Red. So GembaRed.com, they sell these. That's where I got two of them. They're like $30 for these.
Do you want to keep talking about light or do you want to go on to the next thing?
We'll go back to light with the
Okay,
studies. Yeah.
That's what I figured. All right.
Oh, so wait. So as soon as you open your eyes, you destroy your melatonin, and it's not going to be reproduced for 14 hours, assuming you turn out the lights after those 14 hours. So if you open your eyes at 6 a.m. on weekdays, and on the weekend you get up at 10 a.m., That means on Monday, you wouldn't have produced your melatonin because you have 14 hours before you start producing melatonin again. So it's 10 a.m. plus 14 hours. That's like almost midnight,
Ask my dad,
essentially.
he's the math wizard.
Right? But essentially, like, so you go to bed, you're like, hey, it's Sunday night. I got up late, but I'm going to go to bed early because I have work the next day. But you lost half your melatonin because it's not going to get produced because you got up so late on Sunday. So I'm not a huge advocate for like saying you have to go to bed and get up at the exact same time every single day because it just is never going to happen. But the sleep doctors do say that. They're like 7 days a week for the rest of your life. Go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time because otherwise your melatonin gets messed up and people come to them. I mean, obviously sleep doctors see a lot of people that have major problems. So they really have to get them on a consistent schedule. But if you have sleep issues or you wake up after 8 hours and you still feel kind of tired, these are things you could try just to see if they're working for you. So consistent bedtime and waking up.
All right, so the next thing is a much more controversial aspect, and so caffeine. Some people are like, oh, caffeine, coffee, it's all good for you. Some people are like, oh, like studies show you should never have caffeine, but most people have like normally a cup of coffee.
Or 10.
During the day, but that is going to explain what the half-life of the coffee and how it can affect your sleep.
So hopefully you paid attention last month when we said that if you're buying your coffee out there in a cup filled with PFAS and bisphenol A with fluoridated and chlorinated water, and it's the number 3 top pesticided crop in the world, and drinking that, all bets are off. But if you're drinking coffee from home or you know it's a clean source and your water is pure, then what's the problem? So 1 cup is probably not a big deal. And what the sleep doctors are showing is that when we make energy in our body from our mitochondria, it's called ATP. That's like the energy we make. And ATP, when you use it, you have to rest. You have to take in some food to make more ATP and take a rest or sleep. And in order for your body to know that you need to do that, that used ATP, the one that doesn't have any energy left, docks into a little station and tells your body you need to rest and recharge your energy. What happens when you drink caffeine is instead of the used ATP docking, the caffeine docks there and says you can't dock used ATP anymore because it took up the space. So your body thinks it still has a lot of energy. That's why you feel energized after drinking coffee, because none of those used energy molecules can bond and tell your body you're tired. So you're actually putting yourself in an energy deficit. And when you wake up the next day, because none of those things could dock and get refreshed, now you need more coffee because you feel more tired. And then that cycle keeps repeating. So if you can limit yourself to either decaf or 1 or 2 cups of caffeinated coffee after 9 a.m., because before 9 a.m. your cortisol gets jacked and there's another molecule in coffee that kind of like messes with all your metabolism. And the sleep doctor said the name and I don't remember what it was called. But if you wait till after 9 and you stop before noon, then that window, supposedly you're totally fine and you can put all your caffeine within there.
That's the half-life thing. Can you go into-
Caffeine has a half-life of, is it 8 or 12 hours? What did I write down?
It is 4. Wait, I thought it was 4 to.
No, not the half-life. It's 8 hours.
okay.
So it's an
8.
8-hour half-life. So that means that when you consume a cup of coffee at noon, after 8 hours or at 8 p.m., only half the caffeine has left your system. So you still have half that caffeine kind of like making you not so sleepy. So again, if you're having issues sleeping, look at the caffeine. If you sleep fine with it, it might not be a big deal.
So timing is everything.
And get decaf if you're drinking it before 9 or afternoon perhaps, and get organic because it's the third most heavily pesticided crop.
Why don't you share our local?
There is a local coffee roaster in Hudson, and they buy all organic, single-sourced coffees, and they roast it by Willow River State Park, and they deliver it for free anywhere in Hudson, and it's really inexpensive. It's like $12 for a bag of organic, single-source coffee, and they have decaf and regular, and it's called barbellcoffee.co.
Okay.
So he was like a big CrossFit guy, and he loves coffee. So
Cool.
he's
I roast my own. You can
Oh,
roast
do?
your own coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
In a popcorn popper.
Oh.
You go to the thrift store, get a $5 popcorn popper. You can order green coffee beans. Roast them in the garage. I roast them in the garage. It's super fun.
Oh.
And it's like less than half the price.
You can't roast them in your house.
You can't. Well, if you have a good hood.
I have a roaster.
Oh,
A
cool.
1 pound roaster.
Oh.
Yeah,
And
the
that's-
Beemore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one of those too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta do it outside.
That one,
Huh.
it'll
It-
smoke up
it's
your
not a
house.
problem
Really?
During
Oh,
the
funny.
summertime, it's only a problem during the winter.
Yeah.
What happens?
Roasting coffee just produces an enormous amount of smoke.
Does it really?
It's
Huh.
just really.
There's a catalytic, the B-more has a catalytic converter on it, so it helps.
Right.
You know, it's not too bad.
But it's still, it's so
But it
much
still
smoke
smokes
that
it up.
even if you do it in your garage, you gotta leave like a door open.
Wow.
Yeah, I go to the
Crazy.
garage
And it looks
and
like
it
from the
smells.
outside, your house is on fire.
It smells
Even for a
good.
pound of
Smells
coffee?
great though, it's, yeah, that's the.
I've had fresh, I mean, like the local guys that roast it, they'll roast it and bring it to you like the hour after they roast it. It's so good. But fresh roasted
Yeah.
coffee, you can't
It's
beat
so
it.
Well,
good.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, not to get into too much minutia, but you should, it's best after about a day or two.
Yeah,
Oh,
let it,
interesting.
you let it
should
degas.
rest, not
Huh.
just try
Yeah.
to drink it right after you roast it.
Yeah.
Oh, all
Being
sorts
the
of good
chemist,
stuff.
you love
Essentially,
doing
also-
it.
Yeah.
I'll bring you some greens so you can try it out.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
Sweet Maria's.
Yeah,
Sweet
Sweet
Maria's
Maria's.
is a site on, that you can get organic, single,
Oh,
fair
cool.
trade and all the, whatever you want.
They
Sweet.
source them from all over the world and you can get all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, most of the green beans cost somewhere, I don't know, I haven't bought them lately because there's actually a coffee roaster in Spring Valley where I work.
Oh, cool.
But I'm not sure what I know that it's just a couple, I don't know if they're really focused. They do focus on fair trade, so I assume it's but it still may not be organic.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with pesticides is
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can
ubiquitous.
order organic from.
But yeah, it's in most cases, it's the green coffee beans are about half the price of roasted coffee, but you only get about 12 ounces of beans out of every pound that you start with.
Okay.
Right,
Because essentially what you're doing is
moisture
you're
control.
driving all the moisture.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
But it's
Yeah.
still way cheaper.
Yeah.
You can get it between like $6 and $8 a pound for
That's pretty
greens,
good. Wow.
But it's really good
It
stuff.
makes a difference. Yeah, I gotta go back to that because I got
Nice.
lazy and started buying it.
Yeah.
And it just is, when I roast my own beans, get, organic, good quality organic beans and roast them myself and drink the coffee, I don't get any of the kind of negative side effects.
Yeah.
Because I drink too much coffee.
Yeah. No, I used to drink like 3 or 4 cups. now it's all decaf with 1
Well,
caffeinated
the other
cup.
thing is you can roast decaf, and the roasted decaf is really
Oh,
is
cool.
way better because you can mess around with it and get it the way you like it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
it turns out, that caffeine's the only soluble.
yeah, and if you
it's water
roast
soluble.
Yeah.
if you roast decaf, it doesn't smoke very much.
Hmm.
Because I don't know whatever the process is.
Cafesol or
decaf,
cafeol.
It takes a lot of the I think the husk, the
Okay.
off of it, so it doesn't smoke up as bad.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Sweet.
All right, now we're going to switch over to alcohol. So what the sleep doctors were recommending is 3 hours before bed and no more than 2.
So you can have alcohol. They don't suggest no alcohol, and they just say if you try to space it out 3 hours before sleep, it's better. There's also the Chinese organ clock you can look at, and usually like if you're waking up every single day at 2 or 3, that's usually like liver detox on the Chinese organ clock. And so your liver might need energy to detoxify itself, and it's pulling energy from your bloodstream. And then your body's like, hey, I need more energy, so it wakes you up. So that's one reason why you could be waking up at 2 or 3. The other reason is that everybody wakes up between 1 and 3. Every man or woman always wakes up. It's just most people are in light sleep, and they don't notice they woke up. Other people are like, they're awake, they have a whole bunch of energy between 1 and 3. Because your body's natural cycle is when you go to bed with a warmer body temperature, and your body temperature needs to drop until about midnight. And that's why people like the chili pad, or they like to sleep cool, because it helps you sleep deeper if you have a cooler sleep environment. So it should be cold in there, not hot. And then at 1, your body temperature spikes back up, and that wakes everybody up. Naturally. It's just most of us keep sleeping right after that, or we just get into this light phase of sleep and we don't notice that we woke up. Other people are waking up. It could be detox during that time, or it could just be your natural cycle to wake up. The key is that when your heart rate elevates, you won't go back to sleep. So if you wake up at 1 or 2 and you get up, so when we stand up, the blood pressure has to pump more and the heart rate goes up to feed blood to our organs and our muscle, and we walk to the bathroom. we come back and our heart rate is elevated, it's harder to go back to sleep. So if you can avoid going to the bathroom when you wake up, that's ideal. Not everyone can do that, and not everyone can do it all the time. So the key when you go back to sleep, if you're not falling asleep very quickly, is instead of like thinking about sleep, you should just think about lowering your heart rate, which oftentimes, like the inventor of this device too says, like focus on your feet and your legs, and it takes you out of your head. So most people are getting in their head and they start spinning and all these ideas are coming up and worries. So go to your feet and your legs and start focusing on the sensations there, and it'll lower your heart rate and then pull your thinking brain out of your head, hopefully.
Nice. All right, and then what Michelangelo was talking about is exercise. So they said 20 minutes of cardio or walking. Or at least something every day.
Yeah, and so we actually talked to Dr. Dan, who was the inventor of this device. So he's a 70-year-old neurologist. So he's been in practice in the Twin Cities for a long time before he retired. And of course, he invented the sleep labs. So he's looked at a lot of sleep data. And he says when he doesn't walk for 20 minutes or exercise during the day, his sleep is always worse. So what the medical professionals have looked at through all the sleep studies is you have to get at least 20 minutes of some sort of movement during the day that elevates your heart rate to get the best sleep at night. So just another thing to think about if you're not getting good sleep, another one of those tools you can pull on.
And then they said 15 deep breaths before you get out of bed.
I don't really know much about that one.
In the morning?
Yeah,
not
in the
sure.
morning. Yeah, and it's like just to prepare you for your day, not just like get out of bed and go, oh, I'm just like, a barrage into work or whatever that you're doing. Just to like collect yourself, take those 15. Actually, practiced this the other day, and I meditate a lot in the morning, but I did the 15 breaths, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I'm always doing something like that in the morning anyway, but it was interesting. And then you just become really hyper aware of your breathing and if it's in your upper body or your abdomen. But it's a nice way that this is from the sleep doctor guy. And he said the same thing right before you go to sleep. So if your mind is like, and the same thing he said with, or Dr. Dan said with like focusing on your feet before you go to sleep, you can kind of pair that with your 15 breaths and then kind of get out of your head. Drop.
So this is I think it's Dr. Bruce, if anyone's heard of him. He's the one that wrote the book Chronotype or Chronotyping. I think you can go to chronotype.org and you can take a test, like a sleep test, and it tells you your chronotype. So he says, I can tell you what time you should be going to sleep and waking up every day based on this quiz. And so it's like, and they're animals. It's like you're either a bear or a wolf or a dolphin or something like that.
Yeah.
And so when you take that quiz, I think it's free online. I've got the address written down here if people want to take it. It will tell you like, oh, you're a wolf. You're better off going to bed at 10:30 p.m. and waking up at 8 a.m. Or you're whatever, a
bear early morning.
Early, yeah.
Yep, and early, and then night owl.
Go to bed at 9, wake up at 5, whatever
Dolphin,
it is.
I'm not sure.
The dolphin is like biphasic sleep or something. It's like the most scattered brain one. It's like you can go to bed and then wake up at midnight and be up for 4 hours and go back to sleep, and just like this biphasic sleep. It's a weird one that most people try because supposedly early man had biphasic sleep, they say.
Oh,
I can
really?
tell you every single person that's ever tried that has gone crazy. And they had to stop. So like the whole theory is that when we were primal, we would go to sleep when it got dark and we would wake up at like midnight and be awake for 2 to 3 hours. So people will set alarms for themselves at midnight, go to bed at 8, get up at midnight and try to work, and then try to go back to sleep at like 3 to 6, and they get like a full 8 hours.
I think like Einstein and Tesla and like Edison did that kind of operation. I think that's how they got. Yeah, like they would like kind of fall asleep and then they get inspiration or something would come to them.
Get there and then start writing.
Yeah,
in those
that's what
hours of,
Edison would do.
Inspiration.
Yeah.
Through a dream.
I've heard of people trying like a sleep detox too, where they like won't sleep for 3 days and then their body will be like reset, and then they won't have to sleep as much permanently. And it's the same thing; they're like hallucinating by the 3rd day.
Yeah.
You have to hallucinate because your brain has to defrag like a hard drive, and to do that it gives you REM sleep, so you're dreaming. And if you don't get into REM sleep for 2 to 3 days in a row, it will give you REM while you're awake, and you'll see hallucinations.
That's crazy.
But I've had a lot of friends, and I guess, acquaintances that have tried that biphasic sleep, and every one of them got to about month 3 or 4 and were so like out of their minds they had to stop and go back. And it all reversed itself, but I don't recommend trying that way.
All right, the next one, we're going back to caffeine, and they said hydrate before caffeinate.
Yeah, so if you're having a cup of coffee first thing in the morning, caffeine is dehydrating, of course, so most people are aware of that it's a diuretic. So hydration is not just drinking a cup of water, because water just by itself, you'll notice like if you go out and drink, I challenge anyone to try this, like go out and drink like 3 cups of water and you'll probably have to go to the bathroom like right away. If you drink 2 giant cups of water or even 3 with some salt in it, you won't have to go to the bathroom right away. It's a huge noticeable difference. And that little bit of salt helps the cells hydrate way more effectively than pure water with no salt in it. For whatever reason, it's very effective to hydrate your cells faster. So you lose a liter of water, that's one of these, while you sleep. And so if you're not replacing that when you wake up, you're gonna be dehydrated. So I literally drink at least 3/4 of one of these before I have coffee in the morning. And it's the first thing I do when I wake up.
Julie, have you been, I'm not going to pick on
Yeah,
you, but I'm
no,
just
I
curious
do.
if you,
I just drink, well, I drink regular water, but I don't like to put the salt in it, I just stick
Oh,
it
really?
in my mouth.
oh, okay.
Yep, either way,
Okay.
it's fine.
Better.
But you were doing hot water with lemon for a while.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
back to
Are you?
that. I actually think that gives you better energy during the day, is what I found when I did that.
Really?
Nice.
Was the hot cup of lemon, I don't know, maybe it just detoxifies you, and then the coffee, which now I'm gonna try to hold off till 9 o'clock on coffee if I can.
I just do decaf first
I'd
thing,
like to try.
and then at 9 I do caffeinated
Oh,
coffee.
okay.
So
maybe I could
I
try
like the
that.
ritual and the warmth and the flavor. So I do a decaf, and then I'll have caffeinated coffee
Okay.
later.
What do you know about like drinking water that's gone through the water softener and the salt that's in the water softener?
I would say that salt is rock salt. It's not sea salt typically.
Right.
And that rock salt has been processed and bleached. And so typically that salt is not usable. It's an inorganic version of salt, and supposedly organic versions of salt connected to like an amino acid or other organic molecules are more bioavailable to your body. So I like to use sea salt. I would usually filter that water to get the salt out through a carbon filter. It'll take the salt out. And then add my own sea salt, because there's like Baja Gold sea salt is like the least processed, highest grade salt. I know Hannah knows this.
It's so good.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it's like $50 for a little bag, but you can buy it locally. This guy locally will buy drums of this stuff, and he sells it for like $1 a pound. And it's the same as Baja Gold sea salt, and so it's so inexpensive just to get it locally that I wouldn't get it anywhere else. And it's unprocessed. It has all this. It only has 70% sodium. So like, how does salt only have 70% salt? It's because the rest of it is magnesium, potassium, and like all this other stuff. So that salt has like a lot more minerals for your body
And
as
it
well.
has a 8 pH.
A pH of 8.13.
And like Redmond's
is-
real salt has,
Which is
it's
basic.
acidic.
So it's
Oh.
alkaline salt, and
Yeah.
a lot of the salts like that are acidic. So if you measure the pH of your water, it's probably going to be like 5 or 6, and you really want the pH to be 7.8 or higher.
Are you saying Celtic salt has a 70%?
It's actually Baja Gold. I think it's from Mexico. There's like this pristine part of the Mexico
The Sea of Cortez.
Sea of Cortez, yeah. But if I had to pick any salt, I'd use that. And if I had to choose a salt at the store, it'd be Celtic sea salt.
It's the next best one.
Okay.
Yep. the
Celtic
same-
is perfect to use.
But the same with French gray salt, and the reason
All
it's
good.
gray is because all the trace minerals in it.
Any sea salt, as long as it's not refined, is what you want.
Yep.
Yeah. You just don't want rock salt, because salt from a rock, Himalayan salt, is not the same biochemically in your body as salt from the sea, or salt from a plant, or salt from an animal.
There's a company called Saltworks. You can order, they're like a huge distributor of salt. And you can order like 5-pound bags of, and they have zillions of different, and larger quantities of zillions of different kinds of salt.
Oh, cool.
And it's wholesale. I usually get like this big thing of it and just have a bucket
Oh, nice.
of like.
I'll have to
really
look
good
that up.
kosher
Saltworks.
salt.
Yeah.
Saltworks, yeah.
We'll have to do that for our ferments too, for kosher salt.
Oh, yeah. All right, so sauna is what Travis was saying, but these guys are saying sauna first half of the day and then cold before bed.
So because your body is supposed to drop in body temperature after you go to bed, they say don't get hot before bed. But honestly, if you take a hot bath or a hot sauna and then you allow your body to start cooling before you get in bed, it's on a cooling trajectory. So I think that's totally fine. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily agree. And I wanted to say, like, the sleep hygiene thing is really like making your bedroom cold, quiet, and dark. So like any lights, blinking lights, charging lights, your smoke alarm light, night lights, like all of those things, they did a study and they showed with a night light plugged in, and they used women in the study, women gained enough weight to be obese that had night lights versus women with no lights on in their bedroom. Literally just a night light plugged in. The other study showed that mice given 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness were normal weight. They were fed the same amount of food and exercised the same amount as the other group of mice. The other group of mice, instead of 12 hours of light and 12 hours of dark, 24 hours of light. Same food in, same amount of exercise. So calories in, same, calories out, same. The mice with the 24 hours of light were obese, and the mice with 12 hours of darkness were normal weight. So that tells you that if you put the same amount of calories in and exercise the same, if you're standing under light all day long, that's not natural sunlight, you can gain weight just from the light itself, not necessarily from the food. And most people have no idea that light can actually make you gain weight. Yes.
I have one of those like clip lights from Bon Charge that's red. If my toddler likes to have that on in the night, is that gonna be problematic?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
So what we did in our kids' room is we took
Pass.
a salt rock lamp and put a red light in the salt rock lamp
Oh, yeah.
and left that on all night. And that does not disrupt your melatonin. And if the light is low enough, it won't disrupt circadian rhythm. So these won't disrupt circadian rhythm. Like if we turn the light on in here, Travis's panel light,
Oh, that
that
big
will
one.
disrupt circadian rhythm. It won't shift melatonin, but it will disrupt circadian rhythm. So,
I think it's the middle of the day or something.
because of the brightness of it.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
But a dull red light, totally fine for night. So yes, you can use some light. And I just want to go with the light because I don't know that we come back to it in there.
The next one is the morning sunlight,
Perfect. So
which is cool that the hygiene doctors are talking about it even.
Yeah, most sleep doctors don't talk about morning sunlight, but we know that if you get outside at dawn, you get better sleep that night. And if you take insomniacs and you take them camping, because they've done this study 4 times now, they took insomniacs out of the city, they brought them camping, and within 2 days, all of them were sleeping after sunset just fine and waking up at sunrise, because you start syncing to the circadian rhythm, which is the light and dark cycles of the earth. But we're under artificial lights. So if you see sunrise in the morning, what is it doing? It's telling your body what time of day and time of year it is. It's setting your circadian rhythm for the whole day. It's starting to program the amino acids or the proteins in your body to become the right hormones. So you're programming tyrosine, which is a cyclical amino acid. They're just like in a circle. It's actually like a hexagon. So tyrosine is an essential amino acid, and so is tryptophan, and they're circles, and they trap photons in that circle. They're called cyclical photonic light traps. And that light provides information to those. So tyrosine becomes thyroid hormone later in the day. So if you're programming your thyroid hormone from artificial light, you can get metabolic chaos. So these are just a number of studies. I just pulled like a random from 2017 to 2024. And this is just a random sampling from the National Library of Medicine, National Institute of Health. Light at night in older age is associated with obesity, diabetes, and hypertension. So light at night, they abbreviate it LAN or ALAN, artificial light at night, is associated with negative health consequences. It's pretty clear. Habitual light at night, who doesn't turn on the lights at night? So it's pretty habitual. In older age is associated with obesity, diabetes, and hypertension. Okay, that's one. Association between light at night, melatonin secretion, sleep deprivation, and the internal clock. We set our internal clock through the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's in our brain near the pineal. And we set that with light through the eye, and that's when we release our melatonin. So it says, exposure to artificial light at night results in disruption of the circadian rhythm, which is harmful to health. Blue light hazard. So this article is about an organic LED. This is a regular LED, but they're starting to make organic LEDs you're all going to see. Organic LEDs are flexible, so you can embed them into like your clothing and have like active camouflage that the military already has. So an organic LED, I think on the sheet I showed some organic LEDs, and you can make organic LEDs look like whatever you want, when regular LEDs you can't. So they know there's a concept called the blue light hazard because it's harmful to our eyes, these LEDs. And if you Google the American Medical Association, they wrote a warning letter to all Americans that the blue lights or the LED lights being used were harmful to Americans' health. That was like a mainstream medical association. So there's a blue light hazard, and these organic LEDs are supposed to help get rid of the blue light hazard. So they don't tell you that these lights are hazardous, but in the literature they tell you that there's a blue light hazard, and it says exposure to blue light may damage the retina and suppress melatonin at night. So we haven't even talked about looking and staring at a computer all day and working under these lights damages your eye and causes macular degeneration. So these guys are like, we're creating an organic light emitting diode with candlelight emissions to overcome this hazard. Okay, well, they just admit that it's a hazard. Effects of artificial light at night on human health. And so this is, again, exposure to artificial light during the nighttime suppresses melatonin and increases sleep deficiency. Circadian rhythm disrupted by light at night, and mistimed food intake alters your hormone rhythms and your metabolism. So this is showing you light at night and eating after dark. Also bad, your cells are sleeping after dark, just like you should be. They don't want to take in a bunch of nutrition after dark. So we should not be eating once it gets dark. What happens at 4 o'clock in the winter? I don't eat after dark, so I eat at 3 p.m., but not everyone's going to do that. So you can figure it out, whatever works best for you. And then light at night, disrupted circadian rhythms alter physiology and psychology or behavior. So they talk about life on Earth has evolved. If you believe in evolution still, that's fine. But virtually all organisms on the planet display an internal representation of the solar days through their biological clock. We have a clock in every cell and every organ of the body. It is set through light via the eye, and when we feed it the wrong type of light, like artificial light, it screws up every clock in the body.
Thaddeus, you went really fast over the not eating after dark or after sunset. Can you just back up a little bit? And
Our cells are sleeping after dark. We shouldn't be forcing nutrition into them. They need a rest and they need a rejuvenation period to detox. If we eat after dark, you can look up, there's at least 50 studies and recent showing that food eaten after dark increases obesity like 5,000% or some ridiculously large percent. So we know that eating after dark can lead to more weight gain. We also know that fasting has all these benefits. So instead of fasting in the morning, when your cortisol is already high, you make it higher when you do an intermittent fast in the morning. A lot of people are switching their intermittent fast to night. So they'll finish eating their last meal of the day at 2 or 3 or 4 p.m. and not eat again the next day till 7 or 8 a.m. So you get to eat 3 meals a day, but you just don't eat closer to dinner, which also sounds like breakfast like a king,
lunch like a queen.
lunch, okay, and then dinner like a pauper, whatever. So like there's maybe some ancient practices that thought about that too.
So what is the recommended time of exposure to the morning sun or?
Within 30 minutes of sunrise. And it's
What do I
this
mean the length?
it's quantum. So light is quantum. A tiny bit of exposure has a massive benefit. So if you can only get 2 minutes, that's good. Ideally would be 5 minutes minimum and up to 30 minutes. And you want to do it within 30 minutes of sunrise. There's no ultraviolet light at sunrise. So when the sun rises, within 30 minutes of sunrise, there's no UV. So you can't make vitamin D, you can't liberate nitric oxide, but
So
you also
is
don't
that
need.
Sunrise, is that like when the rays start coming before the sun does come up? Or is it
Yeah.
after the sun starts coming up and you see?
red.
When you see it, that's not the best indication because most people, other than like where you live, we can't see the sun rise or set. So we might say like when I can see the sun, it's 8 a.m. But when this actual sunrise happened was 6:30 a.m. So you just look on your phone, it'll tell you a sunrise time.
Oh,
Yeah, it'll tell you.
Whatever the phone says is the time of sunrise, that's when you want to be out within 30 minutes. Because once it makes it above the trees or above your neighbor's home,
Yeah.
it could have UV in it, and UV shuts off your hormone production. So infrared and red light boost your hormone production. Your thyroid hormone, your serotonin, all these are created at morning sunlight only. And once you see, so this is if you wake up at 10 a.m. and you see the sun, it's too late. The UV shuts off your hormone production, your testosterone, your estrogen, all that stops until night when it turns all of it back on
Wait
with
a
the
minute,
darkness.
there's no UV in the atmosphere right now.
There's no UVB.
Oh,
There's UVA,
okay.
but only a little bit.
Okay.
So does that go true with sunset too then?
Yep. Sunset, there's no UV.
So then you
So you want to, if you
go
can,
out, you look at it at
Yep.
sunset.
if
Yeah.
you can. Sunrise is the most important, and then sunset would be the next. If you can get it, it's ideal to see sunset also. And it'll cure a sunburn too. So if you're sunburned, the sun cures the sun. So UV causes the sunburn, infrared cures it. So there's no UV at sunset. So go get sunset for infrared to help cure your sunburn.
And clothes and glasses will like deter that, right? Like you can't wear glasses to absorb that sunlight.
No glasses, contacts, or sunglasses when you're getting the morning sunlight. You got to put them down here so the sun kind of goes in.
And
So
then waking up
yeah.
before the sun, because I work before the sun.
So you want them down here.
We wear the glasses,
So
because I'm on a computer before the sun comes up.
right. So what do you do about light if you need to be up past sunset, which all of us do right now, or wake up before sunrise? And it's more important at night because that's going to destroy your sleep if you see lights. So in order to not change out all the lights in your home and never look at a device again, you can wear blue light blocking glasses. And that's why they're called blue light blocking. They block the frequency of light that stops melatonin from being released. And the reason that these are created is because University of, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, RPI, in New York, did a number of studies on wearing blue light blockers and testing blood and saliva melatonin all night on students that were up all night studying. So they would test melatonin, and they found the melatonin was destroyed with the fluorescents and the LEDs. But if they put, this is what they actually used in the study. They used, these are called UVEX Skyper safety glasses, and they're really sweet looking. So everyone wants to wear these at night. But this is what they used in the study. And they showed when these were worn, the melatonin level peaked and it stayed up. And when they took these off, the melatonin crashed. So what they did is they took these lenses and they embedded them into nicer looking glasses, essentially. So like you can buy these all over the place. You can probably find some on Amazon that are so-so. There's other companies that sell these. But essentially all these companies, they're like, hey, here's an invention. We're going to take these and make them look really nice, but use the same lenses. And that's all those lenses are all the same. So if you see blue light blocking companies and you're like, why does this pair cost $200 and this pair cost $60? There is no difference. They all do the same thing. They all get their lenses from the same place and they all block the same amount of light.
When I first met Thaddeus, he was wearing those, and I was like, what are you doing?
It was before they had good pairs, really.
So in the morning though, you're saying we don't need it as necessary as nighttime. 'Cause,
Correct.
like, I feel like when I put them on my cheater glasses because I have the clip, but sometimes I just feel like it's so dark, like I'm trying to work and it's just not as.
Yeah, because you want to wake up too.
I have a
mean,
screen filter. I personally,
that
like,
too.
I still wear mine even in the morning, but I have a filter. They're free. It's called Flux, Flux, Flux. JustGetFlux.com.
I think
It's free.
Free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and it takes out the blue light from your screen. Not all of it.
It
but enough.
changes with the.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think it's too much.
Yeah, just use
And I
Flux.
haven't even seen the sun come up because
Yeah.
it's before it.
And in the
It's
morning, you
tricky.
want your cortisol to start raising, so it's okay. It's just what I want is I don't want to move my cortisol too high in the morning. I'm already kind of
Okay.
stressed, and I already start my day at like 6 with meetings.
Okay.
So I like to see the sun rise before I take my glasses off. But the number one time when you really want to get the right light is before bed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting, since we have my mom here, to talk about the horse and the light and the pregnancy thing for fertility.
So yeah, because we talked about seasons, right? So when you look at these lights from the sun, both of these are the sun at different times of the day. I could show you the sun at different times of the year, and every one will look different. So what happens when we use LEDs inside? That spectrum never, ever changes. It's always the same spectrum. And yet, if we were outdoors, we would see a change from morning to night and from winter to fall and fall to spring. It always changes, and it's all information that our body is reading. So just like you can send a text from your phone to someone else's phone, like it's going invisibly through the air, but it's this packet of information that's being read by the antenna on somebody else's phone. The same thing from the sun. It's a packet of information that our bodies are reading to stay optimally healthy, except we've come inside, we've covered up when we're outside, we're wearing sunglasses now, and we see artificial light. So we're getting these weird signals to our body, and we wonder why modern man has more disease than other people. So the sun is the only thing that animals are reading to gain a winter coat that changes colors, or to stop reproducing when it's winter because they're going to be hibernating. But I think you were saying that you used light.
But I'm just, well, we just used regular light, which,
Yeah.
But back then
that
it would have been
give us-
halogen or incandescent.
do you remember what kind? Yeah, I suppose, because that was,
It wouldn't have been LED.
In the 80s.
It
So
was probably one of those farm lights, right? With the,
Well,
was it a heat lamp too? No,
Those are mercury vapor, those big farm lights.
are they?
no, it
Wasn't
like that. No.
or a sodium.
But you were trying to alter, because in the Arabian horse world, they wanted a specific time for the pregnancy. So
Well,
when the,
in the Arabian world, the horses turn a year old January 1st.
right,
And so if you're competing, you want your foal or your newborn to be older than everybody else's. So I wanted mine born in January. Most of them are born in June, July. So then you've got like a 3-4 month jump on the next guy.
oh yeah.
So that was the reason.
But, so then you used more light in the evening.
Instead of
to-
letting it get dark like it would naturally get dark, they flooded light into the horse
It was on
stall.
the timer because according to the sun, you know,
Yeah.
it increases so much in a
Yeah,
particular month.
so it's trying to mimic summer,
Right, and it worked.
so you could get
Yeah.
the mare pregnant. Yeah.
So
So
crazy.
she ovulated
Yeah.
and she had a foal, I think, January 10th.
So again, when you're talking about infertility issues these days and the light we're exposed to, when we know that the sunlight dictates your sex steroid hormones and your reproductive cycles. So we're under this light messing with all of that, and we have a lot of infertility now as well. Do we have anything else that we want to go through, or is that our whole
Can I ask
list?
a question?
No. Yeah, of course you can.
Clarification on the sunrise. So the point of it
Oh,
not
yeah.
necessarily to be in front of the sunlight. It's just to be outside during.
This is a question, probably my second to top question I always get.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's like, what if I can't see the sun when it rises?
Right, because in my house it comes. I can see it about 20 minutes after it rises.
Right. Now, if it's sunrise, so like, I don't know, right now I've been going outside around 6:30 a.m. and,
Yeah.
and like, it's not dark, right? You can see.
Yeah.
So if you can see, the sun's hitting your eye.
Okay.
Somehow it's getting to your eye so that you can see.
Right.
So just because you can't see the sun, it is still getting right into your eye.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, because like I can kind of see it come through the trees and I can see it like shining in different parts of the yard, but not where I am on my deck. So it doesn't matter.
Nope.
And like if I have as much skin exposed as
That-
possible, it's all getting
Yep.
that information.
Now, if you were sick and you were trying to like fight a disease, they would tell you drive to where you get the sun on your body because it's more critical. But
Sure.
for everyone else that's kind of just not doing those things,
Okay.
it is and they would tell you like, it doesn't matter if you can't see the sun, you're still getting it. But if you were fighting something, they would say the critical piece is the time. So you at exact sunrise will go find the sun and get it on your body. But for the majority of us, does not matter if you're physically seeing it, because the sun, I mean, if you think about like where the earth actually sits, regardless of what the shape is, like the tallest building isn't going to block the sun from coming to where you are because you can see the ground and it's not night. So you're getting the sun.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter. Don't wait. Because for some people, it's like a really long time. If they
Right.
have a tall house or a really tall apartment building next to them, they won't see it for a long time.
Or friends that live in the mountains in the valley.
Yep.
It doesn't come up. It's really weird. Yeah.
And if it's like, the other question I get is like, what if it's foggy or cloudy? Doesn't matter. Same thing. Get outside. Because the other thing, people have these sad lights. And those things are kind of junk. The science behind them is correct. It's the brightness that they're missing from coming indoors.
Oh, yeah.
The intensity of the sun is 100,000 lux. The intensity of this is 2,000 lux. So when you're under indoor lighting all winter without going outside, you're not getting the bright enough light. So those sad lights are just really bright light. it's intense, but they're also blue, so they're harming your eyes. So the sad lights should actually be like ultraviolet, red, and infrared, and they would be way healthier.
Oh,
The other thing we didn't talk about is supplements to help people sleep. 100 million Americans, last I checked, there was only 365 million of us. 100 million people take a supplement to fall asleep every night, whether it's a pharmaceutical or over the counter, because they have trouble falling asleep. So people often ask, like, what should I take to fall asleep? So there's like THC, there's CBD, there's melatonin, there's magnesium, there's all these things. So number one, this was something interesting. I've talked to people like anecdotally or subjectively about like THC. And they're like, it helps you fall asleep, but it gives you shitty sleep. So the sleep doctor actually addressed this, which was really cool. I was listening to this webinar yesterday or 2 days ago, and he said the THC that they used in the 80s had 6% THC, but today's THC has 80% THC in it. So he basically says if you're 18 to 25 years old, that equals long-term damage for using that, and it's definitely not going to help you sleep. So don't use it. Number two, people like CBD for sleep, but there is zero data on CBD helping sleep, which I thought was weird because I thought that there was. And he said CBD can help with anxiety and stress, which will help you get to sleep, but CBN will help with sleep. And there's lots of studies on CBN. So if you're trying to find something for sleep and you want like a CB product, a cannabidiol product, look for CBN to help. And there's no THC in there typically. And then he said the other things that are really good that no one's talking about is magnolia bark. I didn't really know people use that for sleep, but he said he's like one of the top sleep doctors and claims magnolia bark is really good. No one's talking about it. GABA is a neurotransmitter that helps us relax. And taking some GABA, but if you take it all the time, it's addictive and you stop producing your own GABA, so don't take it all the time. GABA can be really good, and we have a friend that takes, if a normal amount of GABA is like 10 milligrams, he takes 400 milligrams and like 250 milligrams of melatonin every night. And the normal dose of melatonin is 1.5 milligrams. He's taking 250. It's way too much. But people say high dose melatonin after age 50 is really good. It's anti-cancer, helps with a whole bunch of things, and it's definitely going to help with your sleep. So I used to have a lot of trouble sleeping. I had really bad anxiety and insomnia, which I solved. And what I found is melatonin is really effective for getting to sleep. It's not going to give you really good sleep the whole night. You have to do other things for that, but it does help me get to sleep. And with melatonin, you want to take 1.5 milligrams or a little less, but most of them come in a minimum of 3 milligrams. So you break them in half, that's 1.5 milligrams. If you take it sublingually, it takes 30 minutes for it to be effective. And if you take it as a pill, it takes an hour and a half. So time your melatonin usage accordingly if you're going to take that. Hour and a half before bed if you're taking the kind of capsule or pill form. And I think those are all the major things on sleep that we wanted to go through.
Magnesium glutamate.
So magnesium is definitely required for good. So the things that are required for good sleep are vitamin D, magnesium, and iron. Most people don't know that an iron deficiency in both men and women will prevent good sleep. So if you're deficient on magnesium, you need to supplement magnesium, definitely. Like, do you have to use it right before bed? Nope, you can use it anytime during the day.
Oh, I use it before bed, but I feel like it helps with like leg cramps, like if I don't take
Definitely.
leg cramps.
Yep. So definitely you need magnesium for muscles. Same with potassium, but for sleep they say vitamin D, magnesium, and iron, which is weird. Did you have another question? No, good. All right, so I think,
Questions, I think, is what we're doing next.
yeah. So any other questions? Yeah.
Well, so let's say you're like doing it all right in the evening, past sunset, and you all of a sudden get exposed to some blue light that you weren't expecting, or whatever, something happens. Like, what are the impacts of like 5 seconds of some really good bright blue light, or like you're doing it all good and then you have it for 30 minutes and then you go back to what you were doing?
Really good question.
Like, how is that really impacting us?
There-
Is it totally crashing your melatonin, or?
They are actually studying this. So in I don't know why a lot of this happened in 2017. It's when I gave my TED Talk. It's when a lot of these studies were published. The NIH held a big conference called the Circadian Rhythmicity Conference. And they had researchers from all over the world. And you can still find it. If you go to NIH Circadian Rhythm Conference. You can find all the papers that were presented at that conference. They're all free and publicly available. They were studying like how much time and how intense does the light have to be. So it depends on the light intensity,
Yeah.
the color, and how long. Yep. So like a phone that's really bright, 10 seconds. A light that's really bright, 10 seconds. Light that's not super bright and that's battery powered or kind of like less intense,
Yeah.
30 minutes.
Okay.
But what happens when you go back? So about like 30 seconds to 2 minutes with a normal LED light destroys your melatonin for 4 hours. So you can go back to doing all the stuff right from then on, but you lost half your night's melatonin. So it's not ideal to get that light exposure, but it happens. So the less, the better.
Right.
And the more intense the light, the worse it's going to stop that process because it looks more like it's noon. So often, like we're turning these lights on all the time, and our body keeps thinking like it's noon, it's noon, it's noon, it's noon, and it just keeps our hormones pegged because it thinks it's noon and it thinks it's summer. And so people are like, why are my hormones trashed? Well, it's because they never turn off. And so you've got to turn your hormones off so they can regenerate and have some sort of downtime. Otherwise, they just get trashed and you don't produce enough because you overworked them.
Thaddeus, can you speak into like the overhead light too, and then the keeping lights low? Because that might be really helpful to
Yeah.
your family and like little ones at night to
Our,
keep the low.
for whatever reason, the way the eyes are set up, we expect light to come from above. So overhead light is more impactful for poor sleep and melatonin destruction than light lower. So like lamps, the people we know that are like the light gurus, they all have lamps and no overhead lights at night. So they set up lamps because light coming from below doesn't destroy melatonin nearly as effectively as from above. So that's another good thing to know if you're just trying to set up a space for your bedroom. I mean, really what we say is like, we have red lights throughout our whole house because we're experimenting, we're trying this stuff and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. But it's really your bedroom. You want your bedroom set up for sleep. So like you don't want blaring, crazy overhead lights. Now you might need those at some point during the day or to clean or to see stuff once in a while, but your normal bed, kind of like sleeping area, should be lamps with really low light or red light. We only use these in our bedroom at night to like get around, to read, to go to the bathroom. When we get up and go to the bathroom, we just bring these with us. We bring these to the hotels. It's plenty of light. You can, I mean, legit, you can put this on the sink and take a shower in a hotel bathroom and not have any lights on. They're bright enough to do that without, and the hotel lights are the worst of the worst. So in your bedroom, it's like keeping these things low or on the ground in like a kid's bedroom, like a Himalayan salt rock lamp, and keeping the light dimmer and as red. Now you can get LED lights that are a specific color temperature. So like this light is probably 5,000 Kelvin and it's probably pretty bright white. But if you bought an LED, and I've got one at home and it's really kind of nice. Yeah, that is crazy. I don't even want to keep that in. This is 5,000 Kelvin, all right? So when you get an LED light that's 16 or 1800 Kelvin, they're all on the specs for any light you buy. 1600 Kelvin is going to look more like this one was looking. So if you got an LED light and it had like this amber coating and it's 1600 Kelvin, those are actually pretty good at night. Like they do better than even an incandescent light in terms of soft, kind of like, I guess what you call soft tone, like amber lighting.
I think they say like 2800, like in the interior design world, is like, that's like soft, warm light, like for living. But if you go to 5000 K, like that's for a like a lab. It's like super
That's what
crazy.
most, I don't know, men usually. Men like to see things really well, and they like a lot of bright light, so they don't like, so they can see really well at night. So I notice, like, if men do the lighting, they do these crazy white lights, and you can see when you walk, if people walk around their neighborhoods anymore. When I walk around the neighborhood, and Heidi and I do, we'll see like these bright industrial, like laboratory lights in people's homes, and we're like, how can you live under those? It's so crazy.
Or the cool, I mean, they're cool lights too, and people, like, you don't even think about it, right?
There's
Until,
so
like,
much
until
blue
you
coming
know.
off of there. It just
Yeah.
destroys your melatonin, and it's not very pleasant. It's actually very stressful to live under those. So, I mean, this is what we lived under since 1910. It's like the incandescent. And it's not perfect, but it's way better than what we're using today.
Yeah. What about orange, like I put orange night lights instead of the red, because the red sometimes, it's harder to see. It's like
Yeah.
you said, if you put those glasses on, try to walk down your stairs, you might not make it down.
The red ones for sure.
Yeah,
The
so
amber,
it's the same with
but
the red light, I feel like it's sometimes kind of harder for me
it
to
is,
see.
can be.
So I've used orange.
That's great. So what most people do that have a good setup that I'd like to mimic, is they'll take a salt rock lamp and put an incandescent bulb in it, and they have found like that doesn't destroy melatonin.
Okay.
The salt rocks, and that's more orangey.
Yeah, okay.
So yellow, orange, all those colors won't destroy melatonin. It's only green and blue. So ideally, what I used to do is I had a spectrometer, and I would measure the frequency or the wavelength of light coming off those bulbs, and if I didn't see any blue, you're totally fine.
Okay.
Doesn't matter the color.
Any other questions?
One quick one. You mentioned the melatonin increasing or spiking, or I'm not sure what it is, 14 hours after we wake up. Is that year round?
It's a really good question. So we heard that from Dr. Bruce, and I don't know that that would be accurate
Yeah.
all year round.
Right.
I honestly think, so this is kind of where the latest science is on this stuff. We need high vitamin D in our blood to fight disease and to not get cancer and like all these things, right? And so all of us northerners test our vitamin D, and it's usually really low in the winter because you can't get vitamin D outside in the winter in the northern environment. So everyone's freaking out about vitamin D right now. And they're like, we need higher vitamin D levels. We should all be taking a vitamin D supplement. What people are saying is because it gets darker in a northern latitude in the winter earlier, we should be producing more melatonin in the winter earlier. And that if we have more melatonin, it is an anti-cancer hormone. D is not a vitamin, it's a hormone. There is no such thing as vitamin D. That's like, it actually doesn't exist. And if you're buying vitamin D in a pill, it's not vitamin D. Because vitamin D is a hormone, and you can't produce the hormone in a pill as vitamin D. It's just not the same molecule. So they say don't supplement with vitamin D in the winter. We, because of the dark, we make melatonin sooner than in the summer. And as long as we have enough melatonin, we don't need vitamin D in the winter to be optimally healthy. That's kind of the latest science thinking, and it's just starting to be studied. So I do think we make melatonin earlier in the winter, and it's way earlier than 14 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So that makes sense.
That would make sense with people in the northern hemisphere.
Exactly.
Really in the northern.
Yeah, like Finland and Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because they're not getting D except a little bit from fatty fish and some other things, but
24 hours.
right. So as long as you get melatonin on board, your body should adjust itself.
So like I wake up, like I get normal sleep and I feel fine, and like I wear blue blockers and everything, but for like I don't wake up feeling like, oh, that was the best sleep ever. Would it be like a good idea, like as a start, to start tracking my sleep or something like that? Or
It's helpful to know, like, when you feel like that, did you get really low, deep sleep?
okay.
And then what happens is when you're tracking it, you're like, man, every single time I eat dinner at 8 o'clock at night, I wake up and feel horrible.
Oh, so you can see patterns.
You'll see a pattern and you'll be like, now it's an easy fix.
Okay.
Typically that's what I've found is we found the earlier we eat dinner, the better we sleep. And there's a few other things that we found with our tracking of like when we get exercise, if we take melatonin, when we drink alcohol, how much alcohol we drink, what supplements we take before bed, like all that, I can see a huge difference.
Okay. And would you recommend like the Aura Ring or like the Soltec wrist strap for that?
I mean, Soltec's always the most accurate, but I have an Aura Ring if you want to borrow mine. I don't use it. So.
Soltec is $2,000.
Oh, I didn't know if you could just buy the watch. Maybe.
No, you can't.
Is that
Yeah.
the thing?
No, that's the thing
It's
there.
this down here. It's
Yeah.
they're paired.
Yeah.
We have a $500 coupon. Maybe
So I
that's one.
think it's off now, but it only runs for an hour, and then for a relaxation setting.
Which is just,
I don't think you can just buy the band yet.
No.
What they're going to do is they own all the patents on this technology, and they're going to start licensing this to Aura, Fitbit, all those places. So soon all the wearables should be licensing their technology and be able to use that same thing.
So it'll be cheaper.
It'll be a lot cheaper.
But you won't, it'll just be the tracking. It won't have the feedback.
They're trying to make this cheaper too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So could you just put magnets under your bed?
We do.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so the Earth's magnetic
but
field is
huge
decreasing, and it's
mattress and
decreased
magnets.
like 95% from earlier times, even 70 years ago. So we sleep with a static magnet under our bed, but these are two counter-rotating magnets in a metal tube, and they produce a frequency that's like literally 0.6. A magnet under your bed is a static field.
Okay.
It's always the same. It's like 20 Gauss. But these are producing a frequency that's moving. That frequency is what puts you into the deep sleep, because they know if you give someone 0.6 hertz, you'll go into deep sleep. And if you give them like 0.8 hertz, they'll go into REM sleep. So they actually change the frequency based on when your body needs it, and a standing magnet couldn't get you those frequencies.
That sucks, they're so expensive.
They'll hopefully come
You
down.
just plug that in your bedroom and let it be? Or-
So it's plugged in and it's under my bed by my feet.
I mean,
You have to
this-
start.
This thing here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's under my bed where my
You don't
feet are.
touch it, do you?
Nope. Nope. It's a 4-foot radius that it produces a field. So the field radius is 4 feet. It's under my bed by my feet, so I'm laying down. I put on the wearable. I go to my phone and I hit sleep. And then I put my phone in airplane mode. I throw my phone in a Faraday cage. It's not by my bed anymore. And then this is talking to the wearable, and the wearable is saying, you need to relax. Here's a relaxing frequency. Your body's ready to go into deep sleep. Let's give you the deep sleep frequency to make your deep sleep longer.
You don't see that though. You just.
It
it's
automatically
just
does all that. Correct. Yeah.
It's the only feedback technology
The only
On the
feedback
market.
wearable.
on the market.
For
Everything
sleep.
else just tracks what you're doing.
Yeah,
This one
but
gives
this
you
one-
real-time feedback all night.
Did you have a question,
cool.
Mark?
No, I just, more kind of a general comment. So for a long time, I've been trying to work around the fasting, working it into my schedule. I'm still work at a executive position, which is kind of, really stressful and stuff like that, but, it's, what I've been finding is that it is very, I kind of figured out not eating at least a few hours before I go to sleep was helpful. But, and I have been noticing lately though that I was doing okay with like a 16-hour, 16/8 schedule.
Yeah.
But then I had some medical issues that I had to deal with in December that were really severe, and kind of everything just kind of got off track. And ever since I came back and recovered from that, it's like I'm trying to stick to the same schedule, but I wake up I as soon as I get to work at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm just gotta start eating.
Yeah.
And it's just, I feel like I can't,
So-
and I just keep eating until I'm just like completely stuffed, and then I usually don't eat much for the rest of the day, but it's kind of thrown my whole schedule off.
So it might throw off your schedule, and it depends on who you kind of listen to. So like Dr. Sean O'Mara, local medical doctor, also really big into physical composition and health. He only works with executives. He's really big on visceral fat though. So he's like, you need to be fasting 3 days every month and intermittent fasting in the morning. I don't agree with that. So typically, especially for someone like you, your cortisol is higher in the morning. Our brain, based on the sun, is saying when we see the sun, that's when we should be eating. So when the sun's up, your body is getting a signal to eat.
Well, let me give you the rest of that, then I can get this all fit together.
Okay.
So my routine is I typically go to bed around 9, okay, because that's when and I do, like, I go to sleep like almost instantaneously, even though I've had a lot of problems with compression in the neck for a long time. So, but I figured out how I can sleep so that doesn't bother me. But I go to sleep like instantaneously,
Nice.
and I wake up a few hours later, and I'm not totally, like I'm not up ready to go do anything, but I generally do I'm awake for a while,
Yep.
and then I go back. But the other part of my routine is, for a long time, is that I wake up at 5 a.m. and that's just kind of my normal wake up time. So I have my exercise equipment set up so that it comes on at that point in time. So that's a little bit of white light or blue light
Yeah.
in the room. But I also have a red therapy light that
Nice.
also comes on, and it's both the, you know, infrared and
Red.
and deep red. But so it's mostly red light in the room the whole time that I'm getting up, getting my coffee, getting my exercise, and then, you know, getting ready. And then usually I'm walking out the door at this time of year, right as the sun's coming up,
So you're totally hijacking your biology.
right?
I mean, it's like the fact is like even though individually we're biochemically different, our biology is the same. We're not like rats and mice that are nocturnal. We're diurnal. So if you exercise before the sun rises or even before 10 a.m., you definitely are jacking cortisol more than usual. And high cortisol usually requires sugar and food, because otherwise it just stays high. It signals to your brain like, I need to eat, when you have high cortisol. So typically, whether you're seeing the light or not, that exercise first thing, it wouldn't be ideal. Now, sometimes that's the only time you have to do it, right? So like, I get it. I have a senior leadership job as well in a corporation, and like, I'm in meetings starting at 6 often. So have to be really careful on how I set up my day. But I'll tell you that what they say is you should not be fasting. So this is Dr. Jack Cruz, neuroscientist, the most studied of any of the doctors I've ever trained with. He claims we shouldn't fast in the morning till we reset leptin. It's one of the hormones, like ghrelin and leptin are the hunger and one of the stimulant hormones. But basically, once you've reset leptin, you can fast a little more. Your body would be used to it. But his claim is eat in the morning, fast more at night. And he would also say never exercise before work unless you're walking or doing some really light cardio to do a little bit of fat burning. And then when your body temperature is higher and your cortisol is a little lower, try to get your exercise between 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. So honestly, like everyone has to do what they do based on their schedule. But your schedule is kind of set up to put you into a fight or flight with caffeine, exercise, and then work right away, versus seeing the sun, having a meal to drop your cortisol, then getting to work and then working out. Like I work out at lunch, but I'm pretty fortunate that like I can shift my schedule. I work from home right now as well, so I've shifted my schedule to where I can get to the gym at lunch and not have to do it before work. But it depends. Like if you're having issues, that would be one thing. And I've coached some pretty high level executives, entrepreneurs, and they were doing the same thing. Their heart rate variability was shit. And I was like, you can't work out in the morning. They're like, I have to. And I'm like, you can't. So not that you can't, but you shouldn't. And so they're like, fine, I'll compromise for 2 weeks. They did it for 2 weeks. Their HRV was really good. Their sleep was really good. And they got way better. It's just in their schedule, they went back to exercising in the morning because that's when they could fit it in.
Well, there's only, for somebody like me, there's only two choices, either do it first thing in the morning or
After
I
work.
do it after work.
Yeah.
And after work is really, has always been problematic.
Yeah, after work. So they say exercise up till about 6 p.m. is okay. So like the true ideal time is 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Your body temperature is the highest, and that's typically when you should be, they say, when you should be working out from a circadian standpoint. I can't make that window myself with my kids and after school activities and whatever. So I have to shift mine between 11 a.m. and 12. And that's my compromise, but it's better than what I used to do, which is get to the gym. I used to train jiu-jitsu, 5 a.m. class, and I ended up getting ocular migraines from working out so early, plus I was getting choked a lot. And then I wasn't getting enough blood flow to my eye, and I started getting these ocular migraines, which are like lightning bolts in my eye that I was seeing, and it was bizarre. And the eye doctor was like, whatever you're doing, like your eyes are fine, but there's not enough blood flow to your eyes. And it was the early morning exercise was too much cortisol, and then getting choked out in class was probably not a good idea either, first thing in the morning.
Thaddeus,
but I had to shift it.
Dr. Sean would probably say like, you take a lunch break, right? And so you can sprint,
So-
and you don't have to do this hard, because I used to have a client that did a ton of cardio, or CrossFit at 5 a.m. And she trashed her hormones. Like she was getting up at 5 a.m. every morning, CrossFit, like crazy exercising for 2 hours. And her nutritionist was like, you are totally wrecking all your hormones. So she got them checked, and now she does 9 a.m. or a 5 p.m. And she's like
So that's
kind of
a good
evening
point.
things out. But you can also, like, there's always possibility, right? I'm like a possibility coach. So like instead of taking a lunch break to, you know, eat food, you can always go out, and sprinting is free. And they say that sprinting is, studies, is the best thing you can do for your body.
So what I was going to say about sprinting is that you can reduce the amount of weights or other cardio or other exercises you're doing if you're getting the right type of sprinting in twice a week. So like I found that I could drop my weightlifting time by, I was 4 to 5 days a week. I went to 1 day a week, sometimes 2 days a week. As long as I'm sprinting, my muscle increases by doing the sprinting, including in my upper body. And that's because of myokines. So when you sprint, you create myokines in the legs, which are the most powerful muscles. Those myokines are sent to the chest and the arms and grow the muscle in the chest and the arms just by sprinting.
Oh, yeah.
And you can do it in 10 minutes. So like, it's hard if you're at work and you're wearing
Yeah,
a costume.
Maintaining muscle mass at my age is, you know, really important in terms of overall health.
Correct.
But you're right, it's like, there's a lot of, I mean, everybody's always, there's so much information out there, but
Yep.
yeah, there is more and more growing amount of information that less is better. That
Yeah.
Doing lighter weights with shorter reps, you know, doing like, you know, 3 to 5, you know, and at much lower weight, you maintain the same muscle mass. And yeah, because I mean, like for me, or people like me, you know, we're not trying to do bodybuilding.
Right.
We're just trying to maintain the muscle mass so that we can maintain our balance and our overall physical health, you know,
Right.
so that we can function. Because most of us are like, you know, even if we're past 65, we're in a lot, you know, there's a lot of us that are still have to kind of work because we need the, you know, the incomes
Yeah.
for whatever reasons, but, you know, being able to physically do that, you know, once you get past 65 is challenging.
I would, if you follow Dr. Sean O'Mara, he's local. He's all over Instagram and YouTube and has his own website, but he's over 60. And he's teaching a lot of those techniques. So he might be a good one for you to follow. We just met him.
He's the carnivore doctor, and so
Oh.
he talks a lot about fermentation, eating carnivore,
But I
sprinting,
like his exercise
fasting.
philosophy
Yeah.
on
But
over 60.
His sprinting doesn't mean you sprint for 10 minutes.